New Climate Town literally just dropped. Are we Climate Town fans in here? Dude, I would kill a small family for the guy who runs Climate Town, okay? He just needs to say the words and I would do it in a heartbeat, okay? Please don't. I think it like explains how like a lot of shit we think is based is not so based. Why you gotta kill your own kind like that? Listen, bro, look. Okay, let's watch. Let's go.
If you've been to a grocery store lately, you've probably noticed that all of America's food is ominously stamped with the day that food will die. I'm talking, of course, about expiration dates.
Oh, yes. I actually learned about this recently. Expiration dates are like very fake and they usually are state to state dependent. Best before dates are like mostly a scam. Like, for example, milk. Let's say milk is being produced at a milk farm in Ohio or something. And Ohio ships this milk out to like 10 different states. The best buy date will be different in every state based on the local regulation. That's it. So one state, the expiration date will be in a week. Another state it won't be for another 2-3 weeks. What manufacturers should put on these labels is packaged on dates. My half and half went bad 2 months early, almost ruined my coffee. Luckily, I'm pretty sure that like there are a lot of products that are fine because dairy is so ultra pasteurized. You can eat it even if it smells sour. Obviously you shouldn't, but you're not gonna like die or get sick or anything from it. If you leave your milk out, on the other hand, you should be concerned about that. I remember learning about that recently. Yeah, you maybe get a little pooter, but I feel like that's just milk. Yogurt is the same way. Like yogurt, again, ultra pasteurized. It's basically safe to eat always, even past the expiration date, or the best buy date or whatever. Obviously, if you leave your yogurt out, it's gonna spoil. But as long as it's in the fridge, as long as it has been in the fridge the entire time, it's actually safe to eat usually.
You're also the premise of a 2011 movie with Justin Timberlake called In Time. Your time was stamped on your arm, and when your time was up, you expired. And if you're from Gen Z and you didn't realize Justin Timberlake was also an actor, he wasn't. But he didn't let that stop him from being in a ton of movies. When it comes to food, expiration dates might say.
True, man was not a good actor, but he was getting those. I think the early 2000s was like the time where singers just got movie roles for some reason. Like Rihanna was getting movie roles. There were a lot of pop singers as well that were just getting movie roles. It was kind of all in like one wheelhouse where you had to be like a singer, an actor, all of it, all together. J-Lo. But J-Lo actually is a good actor.
Best Buy or Used By or even the magnificent For Wholesome Great Taste served before date stamped below. But all of these expiration date labels have one very important thing in common.
They're fake.
They have nothing to do with whether the food is actually expired.
Like a good metric for bread is always good until it starts molding. Once you see your loaf of bread has a little bit of mold on it, you should throw the whole thing out because bread is very porous and the mold is all over it. That's it. That's the best. Or like smell. Smell is like the other really big one. And you don't have to take it from me. It's food scientists say this. Again, do not eat mold. Don't eat it for fun. But technically, if you eat like very small amounts, you're fine, which is why, like, has anyone ever had that moment where you ate something and then you went to reach for another one and you noticed it was moldy? You went to eat a piece of bread with something and then you went to grab another one. You're like, this one is moldy. Uh-oh. Which means the one I ate is moldy. Uh-oh. Oops. Really, really small amounts of mold are not going to kill you. You're fine. I mean, we fucking constantly are consuming stuff that isn't good for us and we're fine. Like alcohol or like red meats. Like those are not good for you. Like processed red meats are not good for you. Unfortunately, hot dogs are not good for you. Oh, black mold. Black mold is really bad though. Black mold is like no joke.
That's right. These so-called expiration dates on your food are not and have never been about whether your food is safe to eat. And this is not just my Andy Rooney get off my lawn opinion, it is the official position of the safety-loving dorks at both the FDA and the USDA. The date you see on packaging is usually just some guy's best guess at when you're going to have the optimal taste experience, but the mere presence of a date on food packaging leads to 84% of consumers and 100% of grocery stores.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scared of like eating stuff that is bad for me. Oh, to be clear, the one type of food you don't fuck around with is like meats. But I'm like scared of eating stuff that has gone bad, and so I'm always very careful about it. I don't know. I know I've thrown out so many things that went like bad. Dairy and meats? No, not dairy, just meats. I know I've thrown out so many things that they were probably fine to eat, but I just didn't want to risk it.
Throwing away perfectly good food because a box told them to. And while listening to a charismatic box can sometimes be a perfectly fine choice, in this case, misleading expiration dates are a major contributing factor in the United States wasting 40% of our total food supply. Yeah,
Yep.
40. With a D. Of all the food that gets grown or imported in the United States, we don't eat almost 40% of it. And the vast majority of that gets trucked to a landfill where it piles up, ferments, and turns into methane. And not to get too climate changey on you, but methane has a bad habit of f***ing off into the atmosphere where it lives the rest of its life as a greenhouse gas that traps heat 80 times more than carbon dioxide. And if that doesn't do anything for you,
Yay!
here's a stat. 2% of the US GDP goes to grow food that does not get eaten. Yeah, we're wasting the entire GDP of a country that goes here. Every year, the United States is growing and then wasting an entire Norway in food, or an ironic 3 Hungaries. Sorry, and to be clear, it's not
No, stop.
just expiration dates. Food waste is happening all over the place. The EPA is sufficiently freaked out by the emissions and toxic byproducts caused by food waste that they are watching the problem like an eagle. And organizations like ReFed are cranking out charts and graphs that are exactly my style. Exhausting. God damn, green on green on green. Wow, I guess fuck you if you don't have perfect color vision. And the labels are way off to the side. At least make it 3D, people. Drop shadow is free. Let me just, okay, and there we go. And
Please don't.
there we go. Perfect. Now, obviously, I cannot see this chart, but I am editing this video, so you'll be able to see that food waste is happening on every level of the food system. We lose 8 million tons of food per year because people get afraid of expiration date labels, but we also lose millions of tons to things like harvesting issues, mistakes and malfunctions, and food being considered too ugly. Food waste is a massively
I
complicated—
remember when I found out about the fact that we throw out food that looks too ugly, and I wanted to give myself depression.
problem. But the easiest and fastest thing to solve is people misinterpreting the labeling on their food. Plus, it's
Can you imagine being a literal carrot and then you have beauty standards thrown at you?
one that you can actually have a measurable impact on. Also, I did a ton of research on food waste, and I gotta tell you, expiration dates were absolutely the funniest part, so that's why. Yuck. Hi, I'm Raleigh Williams. I have a belly full of milk, a head full of complaints, and a master's degree full of climate science and policy. And this is a video about how expiration dates are bullshit. Welcome to Climate Town.
But we don't throw out carrots that aren't pretty. That's not how it works at all. I will have you know, we literally throw out tons of food every year for literally the sole purpose of creating corporations more money. We literally do.
Despite what our collective great-grandparents may have told us, food in the 1880s and 90s was an absolute crapshoot. I mean, this woman was just served 3 identical plates of beans, so, you know, riddle me that, Chester A. Arthur. Now, I'm not saying my Grandma Betty was lying when she talked about pies cooling on the windowsills, but without any real laws in place, food producers were playing things extremely fast and loose. Oh, hey there, friendo!
I want to live like this guy. This guy just thinks the world is good, man. I miss when I used to think like this. You're going to be so depressed at the end of this video. I'm so sorry. Because you're going to find out that we literally do just throw out tons of food every year because it's ugly. I miss being as doe-eyed as you. No, that's not true. They become baby carrots. They go into soups, etc. I want to be clueless. But instead I have to know about fucking... the reality of food waste. They go to baby carrot heaven, yeah.
Your cheese isn't orange enough for you, hey? Why not sprinkle in a little healthy lead to give it a nice glow? Chocolate not shiny enough for your kids on their work break? Well, just gussy it up with a schmertz of arsenic. I do it every day. During the Civil War, they used formaldehyde to stop dead soldiers from turning into extras from The Walking Dead. This naturally led to a whole bunch of milkmen from the 1900s deciding to keep their milk from spoiling by adding a splash of the good stuff. And if the newspapers are to be believed, a tall glass of formaldehyde milk can really ruin a box social. Actually, you know what?
There's a really good video basically about all of like the terrible things that just fucking killed people in the Victorian era quickly after, just because every single company was just throwing garbage into the food.
Those people are so horned up.
To be clear, we're still doing it today, but we were doing it egregiously. It was like straight up like half of your bread was not bread. Half of your bread was some mayor cat. There are so many places you can sit. And you're choosing the keyboard. Boy. Who's your Mr. Mayor? You guys mind? You guys are kind of interrupting some of my quality time with my cat. Okay. You can go back to lounging, Mr. Mayor.
Those people are so horned up, I don't think anything can stop them. Enter Dr. Harvey Wiley, the U.S. Department of Agriculture's chief chemist, who is consistently finding that when people ate things like arsenic and lead and formaldehyde, they
died.
Got sick. Man, science was way easier to do back in the past. Actually, Harvey Wiley's story is crazy. He got together a group of young men who became known as the Poison Squad on account of how they all agreed to eat poison to see how poison affected them. All kinds of poison. We're talking borax, formaldehyde, acids, the works. Dr. Wiley's findings got national attention, and people were calling for food.
Can you imagine being part of the Poison Squad and your job is to show up and eat like a bowl of lead?
Safety regulations, if for no other reason than to stop these dudes from poisoning themselves. That wasn't really gonna work for the food industry because, they didn't want to be regulated in any way. There were some outliers. Henry Heinz wanted regulations because he was worried that people might buy a bottle of ketchup only to find that it was packed to the gills with rat poison. Chicago style. However, the majority of the food industry lobbied their asses off and attempted to bribe or bully Congress into backing down. But credit where credit is due, Grandma Betty's generation didn't want to French kiss corporations quite as hard as we do today, so they passed the first food safety law in 1906. The name of that law? The Wiley Act. While the USDA and the FDA were busy passing food safety laws, America was urbanizing, and more people were moving to cities and suburbs and buying the bulk of their food at
suburbs.
Grocery stores. Food was getting packaged in one state, transported to another state, and then stocked on shelves, and food manufacturers began putting little codes on some of the groceries so stores could keep track of the stock. The codes were secret, and the practice was called closed dating. But like everyone who comes across a secret code, customers wanted to know what it said. Like this. It's a secret code. It says
there's a really good NPR episode. I feel so spoiled about it because I know everything Climate Town is going to talk about because I just heard it like a month ago.
But I'll never tell. And I'm not saying customers are being unreasonable. You're paying $1 for apples, whether they've been on the shelf for an hour or a week. You'd rather get the newest ones. I get it.
How would you, Mrs. Homemaker, go about finding out which one of these cans contained the best peaches or gave the most for your money? You would look in vain for some information on the labels that you could depend upon. The best possible guide that you, unaided, could have as to their quality.
And by 1973, 10 states had adopted some kind of regulation to make stores de-secret their codes in a policy known as open dating. And no, I'm not gonna do a joke about open dating. I already feel bad enough about that Three Hungaries shit from the intro. And as open dating became a trend and food manufacturers began openly stamping the date on the packaging, customers rejoiced at being able to get just the absolute newest eggs. But food experts weren't quite so jacked. In a 1979 study,
don't worry.
A dream team of food experts from the USDA, the Department of Health, prominent universities, and more got together to express their nervousness that people would see the date and think it was about safety. On several occasions, they noted there is little or no benefit derived from open dating in terms of improved microbial safety.
Which one of these cans contain the best peaches?
The Government Accountability Office also warned federal lawmakers that failure to implement a national system would add to confusion if they let each manufacturer, retailer, or state choose its own date.
And this is the biggest problem. The biggest problem is that the federal government doesn't believe that they need to do this, or that they have an obligation to create like a proper labeling system for all goods.
System. So they tried to come up with a countrywide policy. Unfortunately, it's really fucking difficult to get all the representatives to agree on a labeling system that accurately conveys the concept of peak freshness for like all food. Couple that with the food industry viciously lobbying because, and I think I have this one right, they didn't want to be regulated in any way, and there was a failure to come up with a...
Wait, you mean to tell me companies and corporations and industries don't like to be regulated? I would have never guessed that.
policy.
No way!
From the 1970s onward, a sea of contradictory and nonsensical labeling rules bubbled up from every state. And over the course of just a few decades, a thing that started out as a bunch of 1970s era shoppers wanting the freshest bread became the expiration date nightmare we're currently living in. And that is the origin of 16 billion pounds of food being expired into the trash every year, because a bunch of shoppers named Shirley and Louis and Nancy wanted to know which box of crackers was newest. It's that stupid. It's actually even more stupid, because manufacturers determine when a product expires, or is best by, or has maximum freshness in two ways. The first way is they get a bunch of people in a room and they have them eat food of various ages and rate it out of 10. Once the average rating drops below a 7, that's the expiration date. It's not dangerous.
That's right. Your expiration dates? It's just some lady in a room that's like, yeah, this is okay. Yeah, this is not that good. It's literally vibes. It's straight up vibes. There are only like 2 or 3 things that you should care about, which is like meat, like seafood, but you can do that based on like government, like website information. Like if you go out to the store and you buy ground beef, just go to the FDA website. I think ground beef stays good in the fridge for 3 days, or is it 2 or 3 days? I think it's 3 days. Or you freeze it. That is a better metric than everything else. Basically anything that is in a perishable container, it's probably fine to eat. Like honey, even if honey has a specific date, it's probably fine to eat. You're gonna be fine. You should just stay away from things that smell bad, and you should stay away from things that have mold on them.
It's perfectly edible. It's just not above a 7. So to Nabisco hell with you, you blueberry muffin.
Yeah, to be clear, there are 2 very important things you need to know, chat. First of all, for most corporations, they would rather pay fines than have to deal with regulation. If it means making them more money, they're happy to do it, which is why the Ohio derailment happened the way that it did, because they refused to invest in better braking systems that wouldn't have caused that. And guess what? They paid $25,000 for probably millions of dollars of harm, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars of harm. Isn't the point of yogurt that it doesn't really expire? Yeah, as long as the yogurt is in your fridge, you can basically eat it forever. Not really, but like basically the TLDR is, if depending on the food product, if it's been in your fridge the whole time and it's like a day or 2 old, it's still safe to eat. It's fine to eat. You don't have to like panic about it and be like, oh my God, this, oh God. Depending on the product, depending on the good, as long as it's just in the fridge. So like, for example, milk. If you go to the store and you get milk and you put milk in your fridge and it stays in your fridge the whole time, you're good. And even cheeses, for example, cheese is another one for like mold, basically, because mold is bad for you. Anything that has mold, you should not be eating it. But mold is a great example where if you're eating a soft cheese that has mold on it, you have to throw the whole cheese out. If you're eating a hard cheese that has mold, you can actually just cut off the mold. It's fine, because mold has to do with like how bad mold is, has to do with how permeable like the food is. Just use your senses, people. It's fine. No, unfortunately, bread is porous. So if there's a bit of mold on one area, it's spread through the entire thing. If you see a bit of bread on any type of like pastry cookie, bread, croissant, that kind of thing. The mold that you see is the fruit of the mold. It's the last stage. It's covered in mold underneath. When you see like a little bit of mold, the rest of it, it's all moldy. You just can't see the mold, but it's all moldy. Yeah, so food is one of the most fucked up things. And this doesn't even count, by the way, guys. This doesn't even count the food that grocery stores throw out that's still good. Have you guys seen like the TikTokers who dumpster dive? Which, like, bravery to them. I don't think I could do that because my social anxiety. But there are people who do like grocery store dumpster diving because the food, they throw out the food at like 9 p.m. and the food is still good. The labels are still like...
So I decided to go check it out. And I
decided to check out one of their dumpsters for the first time.
Everything that I found in one night at one location.
It's Andy here, and you've probably seen a plethora of people dumpster diving.
Andy, please,
TikTok,
let me see the
more.
TikTok.
TikTok user known for dumpster diving recently shared a video online that has a lot of people talking. This all started when a former employee known as Decepticommunist claimed the bakery of Whole Foods would throw out a lot of non-expired items.
Here's why you should never feel bad if you accidentally wasted food, and also I'm not like unhappy about leaving Whole Foods. This is all that I'm just throwing away today.
The thing is, you're thinking that's probably a ton of food because it really is. After seeing the viral video, one user named Dumpster Diving Freegan went to investigate to see if this really was true. A little bit about the dumpster diver: she's been going through a ton of stores seeing what's been thrown out from anywhere from fast food to other consumer retailers to even places like Whole Foods. In the viral video, now over 80,000 views, many were shocked to see what was actually in the Whole Foods dumpsters.
All of the food that the Whole Foods dumped, none of it is even expired. Not even the best buy dates. It's literally just like the food says best buy tomorrow and they throw it out.
The user claims that none of this stuff was actually expired and could have been given
at worst it's just a little stale. That's it.
to other people in need.
And the worst part is, none of this stuff was expired. Everything that I found was at least 2 days before its best by date and could have easily been donated, frozen, or given to people who needed it. Fortunately, we were able to donate over 90% of what we found to our local food bank, but honestly, this is not okay.
And the thing is, the TikTok user didn't just find food, she found a whole slew of other items. Yes, I said slew. That's right, in the 2-part TikTok dumpster diving series, the user uncovers more than the bakery items as mentioned. Items like bamboo paper towels and brand new baby food, tea.
Anyways, that's enough. That's enough of that. Not only do we put deceptive labels on our food that makes people throw out food, but companies literally will just throw out perfectly good food. Don't worry, guys. Those paper towels, those were expired paper towels. Those could have fucking killed someone. They had to throw them out.
And that's
because I do know that I saw people earlier that was like, there's no way that would happen. We wouldn't just waste tons of food. That's ridiculous. It's like, buddy, I wish you were right. Surely we wouldn't throw away tons of food when people go hungry, right? Right?
the good way. The other way is
And
that
before someone else sends it again? Well, you don't understand. These companies can't donate the food because they might get sued. No, that is a capitalist fucking lie that you are falling for, okay? There is such a thing as good Samaritan laws, okay? That specifically state as long as the person donating the food donated it in good faith with the assumption that it was still good, you cannot sue them. You cannot. It is nonsense. Good Samaritan Act provides liability protection for food donations. It provides limited liability protection for people who make good faith donations of food and grocery products to nonprofits that feed the hungry. So if you are a grocery store or whatever, and you have food and the expiration date, it says it's still not for another 2-3 days, and you look at it and the food looks fine, and you donate it and it turns out it's not fine, you are not going to be held liable. You donated it before its best by date. You took a look at it. You were like, this still looks fine. I'm going to donate it. So stop falling for that lie. Stop. It's a lie.
they just fucking guess.
In my city, there's a reverse supermarket now where people can donate stuff so whoever needs it can take it for free. That's so sick. I have a lot of ideas for what I want to do with my stream, but I did a stream where me and some friends went to like local pantries, basically, where we would go to a supermarket and then, I should do that again. That would be really, really fun. That would be a really fun IRL stream too. But basically, we would go into a grocery store and then based on however many donations we got, not a food bank, based on however many donations we got during walking around in the grocery store, we would try try and spend all of the money on food. And then we would go to community fridges, community pantries. And then we would just put them into the local community pantries that we could find. It was actually really cool. I want to do it again sometime. I just haven't dedicated the energy to it. I want to see if I can find like a good picture, a good example to show you guys what community pantries look like. They usually look like this. Well, some of them have actual fridges, which is kind of annoying that it looks like this. I'll try and find one while the video's playing.
Yeah, they don't have the money to cram a bunch of college kids onto a racquetball court and have them hork down taco shells till they get some sixes, so they guess. And in the case of a product that obviously doesn't expire.
They look like this, where they'll usually have like a fridge and maybe a little pantry shelf next to it, and it'll be in like a neighborhood, some local neighborhood, and you can just go by and just fucking drop and dump whatever you want in there. We spoke to some people who use the local fridges and the local community fridges, and we'd be like, okay, like what do you think is missing from these fridges? What are people not getting enough of? And then we would go to another grocery store and then we would try our best to fill the fridge, because other people, they rely on that stuff. They don't have like the money to like go to a grocery store and pay like $100 for like fucking 4 items nowadays. I totally recommend it if you guys want to go do something fun with your friends. It's very fun. Or even just like if you and your friends all have a lot of food that is still good but you don't want it anymore. I know I have like peas in my pantry that I literally don't want to eat them, and I'll probably just take them to a community pantry and just put them there because someone does want to eat them. I just don't want to, and they're still good. The food is still good. In our visit, while we were walking around, there were people who worked at restaurants who would come and just bring like a bunch of like excess restaurant food that they just had, or like bakeries where like their bread is 2 days old, so people don't want to buy 2-day-old bread, but the bread is still good. They would go and just like dump like an entire like boxes of bread that are still safe to eat. They're fine. I want to do another one of these streams. It was a very fun IRL stream, and it's also, I think, a way to like show people how easy it is to like give back to your community and like direct mutual aid. And also people can directly help even if you don't want to head outside, right? So if we have like a donation goal and we get to like $300, then we just go to the store, buy $300 worth of groceries, dump it in the fridges, and then go to another one, you know? So it was pretty fun.
They guess for like a year or two from now, which is how you can get
newborn, thank you for the 2 months.
250 million year old sea salt that expires next year. What are the chances? And this wouldn't even be that big of a problem if America didn't inexplicably read date labels like they were messages from future you trying to prevent your own assassination. And I'm just as guilty of this. Like last week, I was 95% sure I gave myself macaroni poisoning. Studies consistently find that 80 to 90% of consumers are throwing food out based on safety concerns based on a date label that has nothing to do with food safety. And our collective paranoia means that every year we're sending billions of pounds of food to the dump. And I'm not talking about the bathroom kind. Okay, cool it. There's only 3 of them. And this actually also counts, cause it's number 2. And it's not just Ma and Pa Kettle at home. I honestly have no idea who Ma and Pa Kettle are, and I refuse to look it up on principle. I just know you're allowed to say Ma and Pa Kettle when you want to refer to like normal people at home. Date label concerns are the #1 reason why grocery stores and wholesalers have to get rid of perfectly edible food. Grocery stores know what date labels mean, but they're justifiably worried that their customers will fall in that 80 to 90% of people who think food past its date label is unsafe.
We're just looking at the top few inches, and it's 8 feet deep, so we don't even know what's down there.
Grocery stores cannot afford to lose customers, so if cereal is having a slow month and that new shipment of Lucky Charms comes in and needs shelf space, well, I hate to say it, but that little racist leprechaun is gonna finally get his wish of keeping kids away from his Lucky Charms, because he's going straight to the dump. And it is way worse for fresh fruits and veggies. A new shipment comes in and the old stuff often gets tossed regardless of how perfectly edible it is. And if you're just visualizing us lighting a big pile of money on fire, it's actually worse than that. Because when we throw food in the trash, we waste all of this we used to grow the food to send it on a trip to the grocery store, where we waste this to keep it there before we truck it to the landfill where it generates this. We're turning the environment into poison. We're basically doing a reverse Rumpelstiltskin, And if that doesn't make any sense to you, you know what? I'll put it on the Patreon page because it's gonna be tedious and I don't respect those people's free time. And wait, because it's even worse than that. While expiration dates seem to have metastasized from something pretty innocuous, some states have weaponized expiration dates as a way to benefit special interest groups and certain industries. And there is no better example of this than the bare-ass, hippie liberal, socialist commune that is the state of Montana. This is Montana. The stock footage website I pay for has some beautiful clips of the Big Sky State. I have some cousins who live out there. I've visited a couple times. It's beautiful. And now we're back to New York. In Montana, it is illegal to sell milk that is more than 12 days old. 12 days. This is refrigerated, pasteurized, perfectly healthy and safe milk, but if the clock strikes midnight on the 13th day, it is illegal to sell that milk. The industry standard is 21 to 24 days, but Montana
The
State
sky
Rule
is big
32.
everywhere. Fucking idiot Montanans.
8.202 forces Montana grocery stores under penalty of fine to remove milk on day 13. And if basic economics are to be believed,
$1.60. Fine, I'll take it.
Hold on a minute here. If that's the only steak you've got, I'll give $2 for it.
Well, now, wait a minute.
I'll give you $3 for it. I'll give $5 for it and take it all myself.
this creates an artificial demand for milk,
$5 for a steak.
Leads to higher milk prices in Montana and more money to the Montana dairy industry. State lawmakers have tried to change this law from time to time because grocery stores are constantly dumping milk down the drain, and you only really need to see a few clips of people being forced to waste their own money before you realize what a horrible law it is. But every time it comes up for debate, the Montana dairy industry lobbies against it, and the law magically stays on the books. Wow, gotta love democracy. Milk producers from other states steer clear of Montana because by the time their milk gets pasteurized and shipped over to Bozeman, it's only got a few days on the shelves before it's no longer allowed to be sold. And for the record, I am all for subsidies for locally sourced foods. But when the subsidy is to get grocery stores to throw their perfectly edible food away, well, I mean, that just doesn't seem to be in line with the kind of free market economics traditionally espoused by the politicians of the great state of Montana.
More taxes and regulations put Montana families out of work. The federal government is too big and too powerful.
I'm Matt Rosendale, and this is how I'd look from a government drone.
Wow, love the creativity. Quick note here, that's very much not what would happen if you shot your gun at a government drone. But at least this man is, currently a congressman. Spectacular.
Transition? This must be that woke ideology they're telling us about. Look at this subliminal messaging telling us to transition. I'm on to you, woke liberal.
A lot of you are probably guessing that it's illegal to donate expired food. Or at the very least, you're liable to get sued if something goes wrong. I mean, that certainly seems to be a major concern of grocery stores across the country.
It goes straight in the garbage.
Yeah.
So
can't do it because you get too many lawsuits.
There's too many lawsuits? Have you guys been sued before?
I don't know, to tell you the truth. It's not my thing, but it's a health and safety issue. If it's close data, if it's like within 2 days, out the door goes. Vegetable, same thing.
Sell by date itself, we pour down the drain. We cannot donate it to the drains.
See, like, this shit is false.
The food bank, so we don't want anybody getting sick, supposedly.
Except, here's the thing, you are completely covered by a pretty ironclad federal law called the Bill Emerson Good Samaritan Food.
Oh, the third fucking pre-watch! Yeah! And dude, this was live. This was literally, I think it just stopped premiering now, so I couldn't even have pre-watched it. So you guys know that I was being legit with you all. I just really care about food in our country. I think it's mostly just that I just really like eating food. So I learned a lot about food because I love food. Food is probably one of my biggest pleasures. I have to be honest. I fucking love food. I love when it tastes good.
Donation Act, or BEGSFDA for short. BEGSFDA. It's a law that specifically protects people donating food in good faith, but apparently it's the nation's best kept secret. It is so important and so unknown that the 2018 Farm Bill explicitly asked the USDA to hire an employee who is personally responsible for making as many people aware of the Emerson Act as possible. And here we are 5 years in, and we're still losing 43 million pounds of food per day to people in grocery stores who are concerned about expiration dates. And not to put too fine a point on it, but there is no evidence of anyone in the United States ever being sued for a claim of sickness or death from donated food. Ever. It is so deeply not a thing.
That's crazy.
That the Emerson Act has never once been used in a recorded case in the Westlaw database. So by all means, donate the food.
What are you talking about? You must be crazy, for I'd never thought of it that way.
But here's
like literally, you will only get in trouble donating food if you knew the food was bad and you donated it anyways. You saw the food label and the expiration date is like a month ago and it was sitting outside, not refrigerated, and you're like, this food is definitely bad, but I don't care. That's it. That's the only way that you would get sued. And you still need someone to sue you. And hey, surprise, people who go to food banks don't have the money to sue you, usually, or the time, which is why if someone who goes to a food bank and they get bread and it's a little moldy, they're just gonna throw it out. And you still have to prove intent. You still have to prove that you knew that it was bad when you donated it and you had some like malicious intent or whatever. It's the standard is so high because we want to get people to donate the food. It's like the big problem is it's two major problems. A, corporations don't want people to realize that they're artificially inflating prices for no reason. And B, corporations don't want to have to deal with like the $5 or $20 it would take to hire someone to donate that food. Also, yeah, plus people that work at food banks actually care about poor people and consequently would never give them moldy food. Oh yeah, I worked at a food bank for like a year when I was like 17 or something. Yeah, anything that was like remotely bad, we threw it away immediately. The only things that we didn't throw away were things that were like perishable goods, like things in cans basically. Everything else, we'd always double checked it. Like the night before we had to, give out food.
Here's the thing. Most food waste
Wait, it literally costs nothing to donate. We already process it. The food bank comes to us. Fucking joke, dude.
Backroom deals or corrupt politicians trying to steal your milk money. The catastrophic waste in the food system is largely a problem we've kind of sleepwalked our way into. Even if every grocery store and member of the extended Kettle family knew all about the Emerson Act and wanted to donate their perfectly good but technically expired food, we would still have an enormous problem. There are huge logistical challenges in moving food to food banks and keeping it from spoiling, but even if we were doing that, which we're not, we'd be using resources to transport food to another location where the problem starts again. That's treating the symptom and not the disease. However, an analysis from Refed estimates that for every $1 we spend actually reducing waste along the chain, we get $6 back. And
whoa, that's crazy.
Not to mention the jobs created, the emissions reduced, or the extra people fed. Speaking of people fed,
yeah, I did.
Sick. Dude, BMW? I bet that dude is tight as hell. Speaking of
Dude, he just like me for real. Oh my God. That is my response every time I see a fucking car. I worked at a Sam's Club for 11 years. Some of it in produce, we had two huge dumpers. Yeah, I got two big dumpers myself in the back where we would fill those dumpsters up to 2 times a week with fresh produce. By the way, the dumpsters are locked after we empty the trash cans. I've eaten 25-year-old canned food once. It was completely fine. Yeah, it's fine. Can you change the quality? Oh no! Look at what you did. I tried to change the quality for you and now I skipped ahead. Are you happy? Are you? I'm just kidding.
And we throw out about 130 billion meals worth of food a year, which means we waste enough food to give every food insecure person 7 meals a day. And if that's not a real kick in the balls to your system of ethics, which one are you using? Because that sounds awesome. That sounds like an awesome one. So the USDA and the FDA could step in and just absolutely drop the hammer on the crisscrossing labyrinth that is different state date labeling regulations. They're just kind of not doing that. And look, I don't blame them. It's not as easy as saying no date labels on any packaging. Knowing when something was manufactured is actually important information to customers, and food producers and grocery stores want to protect their reputation by providing.
And it just, for me, I think it's useful for things like milk or things like meat, eggs or cheese or whatever. Like, I want to know when the item was produced. I want to know when it left the factory. I don't really give a fuck about when someone else thought it was Best Buy.
Providing customers with accurate freshness information. The core problem with date labeling is that no matter what you display on the packaging, there's a perception that food becomes dangerous after a specified time. One solution may be as simple as all of us just encouraging each other to remember that date labels are not about getting poisoned. Food safety is incredibly important, but the date label is just trying to help you determine
which one of these cans contain the best peaches.
So maybe just having a single label that tells you when the food was packaged would work. Or maybe a Best Buy label could do the job, but there's actually been some excellent thinking on different date labeling techniques, and we've linked to the good ones in the bio. And if you're interested in reducing food waste, there are actually quite a few options, including starting very small. There are a lot of problems that require rigorous political and social campaigns to even make a dent. But one thing you can personally do right now to make deep cuts in your own food waste is renew your vow to humanity's greatest weapon. I'm talking, of course, about your nose. You are the direct result of hundreds of your ancestors successfully using their noses to smell if food is bad or not. The people with bad noses, they're not around because they died. Use your nose. Smell the food. If it smells bad, don't eat it. If it smells fine, it's probably fine. Obviously, there are some foods you need to be more careful with, like the foods doctors warn pregnant women to avoid.
Processed meats, various fish, unpasteurized cheeses, unpasteurized juices, raw or runny eggs.
Or foods that you eat cold.
AKA foods that haven't been processed. If it's been pasteurized, it's probably safe. It's safe. And then obviously meat and fish, anything that was alive at one point, you can be concerned about.
Cold without a kill step, as food experts call it. But if you're cooking food up and it's been refrigerated and cared for properly, you can almost always smell it and then eat it if it smells okay. We can also be smarter about
and same thing with mold, like I was saying earlier. If you can see the mold on some bread, you gotta throw the whole loaf out.
Buying food. Put fresh fruits and veggies in the front of the fridge instead of exiling them to the back of the drawer. You can also have a whole shelf in your fridge that is the Eat This Food First shelf. There's actually an incredible book by Dana Gunders we talked to while making this episode called Waste-Free Kitchen that pretty much goes through everything you're likely to eat and how to reduce food waste from it. It's not an ad. It's just a really good book, so consider getting it if you feel like it. Reducing food waste on a larger scale requires one major thought. Food waste is not trash. I mean, think about it. We spend all this time and money concentrating energy and nutrients into food. It's more like a battery than it is an old hubcap. Now, the best way for you to reduce food waste is to buy less food and eat all the food you buy. But when you inevitably have waste left over, it's still an energy source outside of a landfill and a really dangerous methane producer inside a landfill. Keeping that energy concentrated is much more efficient than starting over from scratch, and some countries have made this shift by just banning food from going in the trash. In 1996, South Korea recycled barely 2.6% of their food waste. But after a 2013 composting policy, they are recycling nearly 100% of it. And it's not just other countries. A handful of states have also banned food waste from the landfill, including a law Vermont passed in 2012 that went into full effect in 2020. Policies like these only really grow with enthusiastic public support, which is another thing you can be a part of if you feel like. If you have a composting program in your neighborhood or you have your own home garden, you can use the energy locked in your food to make more food. If there is no program in your—
That part is crazy, by the way, that like you can use shitty old food to make more food is crazy. High key, I want to have like an actual garden just so I can grow food. Composting is so cool. It definitely sounds like a cheat code for sure.
Area and you want there to be one, you can tell your local government to start one up. We got links in the description to help you do that. We've also linked a whole bunch of groups that are doing an excellent job on this problem, both on the national level or in a local level, and you can check out those links, but honestly, a few minutes on drgoogle.com will really help you put your money where your mouth is. Or your time where your eyes are, or ears. As the food system starts to bump into the realities of a finite world, turning the one-way trip food currently takes into a loop is going to become incredibly important. And the groups and companies that are making that loop a reality are going to start cropping up all over the place. We are currently wasting billions of dollars a year because we don't want to spend money on a solution. And that is the kind of brain-dead plan only a very charismatic box can get behind. And that's it. Thank you so much for sticking with me. We got a little
Where is my third poop joke?
more after the break, but first, an ad. Imagine you're the kind of person that wants to invest in the stock market, but you don't want to hand your hard-earned cash over to a bunch of oil and gas companies. Should be easy, but it turns out that's surprisingly difficult to actually do.
Wait, I'm curious about this ad read. Now, wait a minute.
Enter Carbon Collective, a neat little investment firm that offers a lower fee, diversified portfolio that won't directly fund the fossil fuel companies. How, you may ask? Well, step one, oil, gas, coal companies and all your little friends, you're out of here. Step two, put that money into companies that are uncausing climate change. Nice. Step three, invest the rest in companies that could be climate friendly but haven't gotten their acts together yet, and use shareholder power to try to push climate friendly resolutions. Now, is this the perfect solution? I don't know. But if you're looking to invest your money so you can eventually retire to the newly coastal city of Denver, I think Carbon Collective seems like a pretty good option to me. Plus, they're an implementation partner of Project Drawdown, which I like that. Or you can just do what I did, which is take out a ton of student loans and then
That's how I feel,
cross your
yeah.
fingers.
I don't hate this ad, but I don't love it either.
Carbon Collective. Ding!
But also get your bag, King. And I'm not judging you at all. I'm judging the ad company that you're doing. I'm not judging you at all. Get your bag. There's a lot of shittier companies you could be getting your bag from. I want you to keep making YouTube videos.
A little diamond on my tooth. Okay, that's the end of the ad. Thank you so much for watching Climate Town. Boy, do I appreciate it. If you want to see more, feel free to like and subscribe, or send your friend a cryptic text message about Climate Town. Use your judgment. Do what feels best. If you really want to support Climate Town, you can join our Patreon page, where for whatever you want per month, you get access to
Where is my third poop joke?
all the content we have on there that wasn't quite good enough to be free here on YouTube. Also, Climate Town just became a 1% for the Planet environmental park.
This guy is like morally good tip pool. It's a secret third one. Yeah. I have to see this third poop joke.
So if your company is a 1% for the Planet member and you want to support Climate Town, feel free to send us a message, and as God is my witness, I will personally respond. I cannot stress this enough. We've also got a fucking newsletter coming out, baby. All right, sign up for that. Link in the bio.
Do people still do newsletters? I feel like I haven't signed up for a newsletter since like 2014.
Be all the extra little tidbits and spices that we couldn't cram into this episode. And I know what you're thinking. You cut stuff for this? This is long as hell. We did cut stuff, okay? Don't be rude. Yes, we cut a lot of stuff, and some of that fun stuff is gonna be in the newsletter. Guaranteed fun, or your money back. And since it's free, don't get in my face about it. And finally, don't forget to write a third poop joke to pay off the setup from the beginning.
No!
Well, I'd never thought of it that way.
I have not tried marijuana. I have never used it at any time.
That was a great video. It's actually a very, very good video. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that more people are learning about how bad food waste is and about how bad the food waste, I think practice is the word you want. Yes.